All right, man, we're here with Jon Anik, the voice of the UFC. You know as much about these cards as anybody else probably in the world. You have to go through this every single event. You research it all, so let's just get right into it. Talk to us about the co-main event, UFC on Fox 28, Jessica Andrade and Tecia Torres.
You know, it's interesting when you look at this fight card because I think the final 3 fights you're going to see all could have been the main event here. You're talking about ranked fighters all in the top 10, and this Tecia Torres fight against Jessica Andrade, for me, I mean, it's the highest stakes fight I think we have here on Saturday night, of course, with respect to Josh Emmett and Jeremy Stephens. You know, Tecia has been on an absolute tear. She's 10-1 in the UFC. I think one thing that concerns me a little bit is just the finishing rate. Only 10% versus over 70% for Jessica Andrade. And in talking about the Brazilian, I think a lot of us believe not only could she be a 2-division champion at 15 and 25, but if she had stayed at bantamweight, she might have been a champion there too. She has a win over Raquel Pennington, who is the #1 contender right now. So it's going to be interesting to see if this type of opponent and this type of offensive juggernaut will bring out the nastiness and the mean streak in Tecia Torres that I know is in there. And it's not as though Tecia is a points fighter. You know, she has the finishing skills, cardio for days. I think this type of test and this type of offensive fighter is going to bring out the best in Tecia Torres. It's the fight that jumps off the card for me, no doubt about it.
Sure, and nothing said official, which is usually the case, but feels like it's a #1 contender fight for that title.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, this is shaping up as a huge year for this strawweight division. Obviously, you've got the rematch between Rose Namajunas and Jacek coming up on April 7th. So the calendar seems to align with these 2 fights about 6 weeks apart. So I think Torres or Andrade, whoever wins that fight, is going to grab a microphone after the fact and call for that title fight. And you can understand, obviously, why Jessica Andrade would be rooting for Rose Namajunas to win that rematch. That would sort of pave the way for her, I think, easier than if Joanna Jacek wins, because of course she had a shot against her not all that long ago. But I think for Tecia Torres, if she can seize the moment, she's fought Rose Namajunas on 2 occasions. I think she would be the #1 contender.
Main event, couple featherweight heavy hitters coming off big knockouts. Josh Emmett, not a young guy, but a little bit newer to things and to fans than Jeremy Stephens is. Talk about that one.
Emmett's a stud, man, and I think he's got some sneaky power that Jeremy Stephens needs to look out for. I know prevailing wisdom is that we're not going to get a full 25-minute fight here tonight, but I'm not so sure. I think you're going to get some tactical stuff early out of both guys. I think for Josh Emmett, you know, the Team Alpha Male guys have been telling us for years that this is a future champion. He's 13-1. And he's an impossibly hard guy to put away. I think Jeremy Stephens will test that chin for sure. But, you know, I think he deserves the fight. I was a little put off by the whole Ricardo Lamas situation in Winnipeg, that not only did he miss weight by 2.5 pounds, but he weighed in on the early side, right? So there was time still to cut weight, but I think he chose to weigh in, take the penalty. Thankfully for his sake, the fight went on against Ricardo Lamas, and he's being rewarded here with this main event against Jeremy Stephens. But you got a little bit of a 4-man tournament playing out with Brian Ortega and Frankie Edgar fighting here next weekend, and Max Holloway obviously on the men. But this is a huge fight, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the winner of this fight have their next fight be for the title. And what a story it would be, Matt, for Jeremy Stephens. 28th UFC appearance. The guy's 14-13 in the UFC. To win this fight and potentially earn a title shot 11-12 years into a UFC tenure. Absolutely incredible, but obviously he's got to get through Josh Emmett first, and that's no easy task.
I mean, he's got all that experience. He's only 31 years old. He feels like, age-wise, he's in his prime right now. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, and I do think Jeremy Stephens will retire as the UFC's all-time leader in appearances. I thought Donald Cerrone would be that guy. His schedule has lessened a little bit, and obviously he had a 3-fight losing streak that he ended recently, but his schedule hasn't been what it was in years past where he was fighting 4 or 5 times a year. I think Jeremy Stephens is going to retire with 40 UFC fights, which is absolutely incredible. And given the schedule that he has kept, obviously he's main eventing here back-to-back months. He's headlined 2 of the last 7 UFC shows. I think he's going to retire with north of 40 appearances if he can stay healthy, and maybe not Hall of Fame stuff necessarily because of the up and down nature of his UFC run, but incredible that he is in his best form now, 11 years into his UFC tenure.
Ilir Latifi, Ovince St. Preux. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and Ilir Latifi was very clear about this call-out. He said, I have a lot of respect for Eric Turner and Ovince St. Preux and that team, but if your goal is the championship, and Latifi's made it clear that's always been his goal, you need to position yourself and call for the fights that are going to facilitate that and get you there. So, pick 'em fight according to Las Vegas, which we love, and again, a fight that I think from a stake standpoint, could have been the main event here in Orlando. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, it was supposed to happen a few weeks ago in Charlotte. Ilir Latifi, he didn't want to get into the nature of the injury. St. Preux said he got 4 full days off and then got right back into a training camp. He feels like that could work to his benefit, to have more time to prepare for Ilir Latifi. He said there's no such thing as over preparing for a guy. So big fight there. And of course, the main card kicks off with Platinum Mike Perry and Max Payne Griffin. You know, Max Griffin left his full-time job. He was at like a farewell lunch with his co-workers when he got the call that he was fighting Platinum Mike Perry, and he said he screamed, everyone at the restaurant looking at him cross-eyed. But these are the type of opportunities that, I don't know if I want to say fringe UFC fighters, right? But a guy like Max Griffin, 1 and 2 in the UFC, you get an opportunity like this on Big Fox against a guy who is increasingly becoming a household name in Platinum Mike Perry. These are the fights and opportunities that careers are made of. So I'm always interested to see what a guy like Max Griffin can do with this. And of course, for Mike Perry, he is coming off a loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio. So there's no denying how much pressure he is putting on himself for this one, to not just get a win, but here in Orlando to, you know, light up the masses. He's sold more tickets, I would think, than anyone on this card, and got to put forth a performance, you know, worthy of their dollars. So I'm excited, man. We're loaded on Fox, no doubt about it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.